All right, I don't think there's anything more on the nose than what we are about to do. It is October. It is horror movie time. It is time for Matt Men Movies to get all about the horror. I am very excited for this segment. I took notes for myself. I know that you don't have to because you, sir, are a horror expert. At least that's
Not true.
You?
Not true.
Matt
I like
O'Ween
it more than
happens
you.
every year. You've watched at least 9,000 horror movies. So I want to tee this.
Well, I've been 6 years, and it's 31 movies every year, and I watch horror the rest of the year. So, God damn, that's a lot.
That is a
That's
lot.
a lot of horror movies.
Not as many bad thrillers that I watch, but it is certainly a lot. There are so many different subtopics, sub things we can get into with horror movies. But you know what? Let's just kind of start off the top. Why do you love horror movies?
I really like movies to have style to them. I like visual flair. And you get a lot of experimentation in horror movies. You get a lot of stuff that you typically don't see in other like non-horror movies. But also, it's where a lot of young filmmakers start.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I used to not like it. Like I really didn't watch much of it until college. I was a big, scaredy cat. And yeah. But there's still a lot of horror that I don't like. Like I'm not a big fan of slasher movies because, I'm a big guy and slashers don't scare me. Like they just don't. But, it also didn't hurt that, one of my professors was the DP of Rosemary's Baby, and that really kind of got me into it. And that's when I started to watch a lot of horror. That and The Shining, because, I love Kubrick. And once I saw The Shining, I'm like, oh, this is a movie.
I've seen that movie so many times, and every time it's a new discovery. Like every time I go back to, there's something else in there that I didn't see before, that I didn't learn. I watched that documentary Room 237 and then pick up stuff from that and then go back and watch the movie. I'm like, oh, that's probably not how it happened, but maybe it is.
There's a video on YouTube that does a breakdown of how they built the sets and how it subconsciously freaks you out, where it's like, well, you see the camera tracking right here and you see these giant windows, but then when they go into the hallway, these people come from a hallway where there's no door, or you see how close the doors are outside of room 237, but once you go inside, room 237 takes up like the equivalent of 3 different hotel rooms,
right?
And you're like, oh. Or they go around the corner and you see an elevator door, but that's not thick enough to be for an elevator. So what it was a way of subconsciously messing with you, so something's always off, or they go into a freezer and then they come out of a different door that opens a completely different way. But there are 3 horror movies that when I watch, they change each time. That's one of them. Rosemary's Baby is the other.
I want to brag about myself real quick because
and Exorcist
to the Shining Hotel, and let me just tell you, none of that was shot there. And it's very sad because Kubrick hated it. It was there was a color that it was painted when he was there. He's like, oh, this is awful. So they rebuilt it in Oregon. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine.
What was the other 2?
Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3, every time I watch them, they completely change.
Some of those I'm not allowed to watch around this house. My wife does not do exorcism type of movies. She's will not let me watch that because I think she believes in it. I believe in nothing. Anarchy is king, so nothing bothers me at all, unless my most terrifying horror subgenre for me is realism horror. And I tell you, even a movie as ridiculous as House of a Thousand Corpses have a tinge of reality to me because I grew up in East Texas. You grew up in some backwater places too. People like that.
No, I didn't.
Kentucky is my reference point.
I didn't I've never lived in Kentucky.
You spent time.
I grew up until I was 7 in Southern California. So unless you consider Thousand Oaks to be backwoods, like I spent my time at Zuma Beach, mofo.
So much. People want to say, didn't know people like that that are out there. Like I'm sure that I gas from somebody that owned a gas station like that. That's realism to me. That's one aspect, and then the other one is always the idea of the hunt, right? So that's psychological horror to me, and some people just call it psychological thrillers. But when it's a real situation that could really turn ugly like that, that's one, which also leads me to my first question at you. I sent you a screenshot of one of the 100 most important or whatever horror movie list that came out this last week. And at number 9, which you could also partner with The Night Porter, which we'll talk about in a little while, Salò. Salò was their number 9 biggest whatever horror movie, and you said nah on that. So can you explain your nah?
Yeah, I said nah because it's like a disgusting movie, but I don't consider it horrific. Because like I don't know, it feels too adjacent from horror to me. Like it is a horror movie, but I don't know. It just feels more like people being crappy,
Well, I mean, I guess the horror stems from the fact that
Yeah.
you have a group of powerful people, and I think that it extends beyond. Obviously, they were Nazis, and so that's the situation. But I feel like that's a horror of powerful people being able to control things, not unlike things that we've heard in the media recently. These are real things that exist and happen, and the worst of worst atrocities can happen from people in power doing these kind of things. So less about the sexual nature of what was happening in Salò and more about that kind
The control. Right. Yeah, I get that. I don't know. Something like I think The Martyrs does that, but better.
Night Porter, got love for this. I just had to put something horror related. That's as close to a horror.
Never saw it.
Man, another, just like the idea of a Nazi.
Next year maybe.
Mental control. Next year. Matt Oween is in full effect. Like to watch a movie a day during Halloween. Is there one that you've been most looking forward to this year?
Well, no. I was curious about one called Apartment 7A.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I mean, I didn't see it, but I saw it and when I was scrolling through.
Because, I get why it was made. Mike Flanagan did the impossible. He made a sequel to The Shining that works as a sequel to the book and to the movie, and it made everybody happy. And I don't understand how he did it, because it should have been able to be done. But Mike Flanagan does nothing but win. Like, that's all he does. He knows how to make great horror stuff. Like, he's never made anything like even close to meh. It's all great. So, okay, you're going to make a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. And one of the issues with prequels is we know where they go, right?
Yes.
And there were a couple of times I shouted at the screen, "Oh, fuck you." Because you know how, like, Rosemary's Baby starts out and, like, it has, like, really eerie music and everything looks eerie and dark and everything's horrific and there are tons of jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, oh, wait, no. It doesn't have any of those things. It's a serious movie that is earnest and subdued, and there are only 2 shots of anything remotely horrific. The rest is just your mind and, like, what the characters are going through. This feels like it's made for TV because it was made for streaming.
You got a little bit of the subtlety, is what you're saying?
There's no subtlety at all. Like, they literally come out and basically tell her, "Hey, we'll give you everything you want, if you have the devil's baby." And it's like, you just had to infer that in the first one, but it requires you to, like, not be on a phone and pay attention and, like, become interested with characters and understand how humans work. Yep. So that one was a huge disappointment. I did have a couple of really big surprises. One of the biggest ones was Abigail, which we posted just the other day. I wish people knew nothing and just watched the movie, because here's the setup. A group of people are hired to kidnap a little girl and hold her for ransom.
I'm out already. A child? No.
No, but they kidnap the kid, hold from her ballet recital or practice, hold her for ransom, and then they find out that the guy the girl's father is like the biggest and baddest gangster, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like if you had kidnapped the guy who stole the car in John Wick, right? And you're like, oh my God, we kidnapped that guy's kid. And then that's all you need to know about the movie because anything else ruins it. And it is great. There were turns I did not expect. One that I definitely knew was happening, but it's the writing, it's the relationships between the characters, the chemistry between the actors is just amazing. That was a really great treat, and also Trap,
Ah, yeah, you
which you
just
talked about.
sound to me.
This
I will
Trap
watch that at some point
is
in time.
the
Maybe,
best.
maybe we'll see. I would like to make sure the record is clear. I did not say that about children because I have any feelings for children because I do not like them. All I'm saying is if I had to kidnap a child and then I had to deal with them for more than like an hour, that's what I'm out on. You can kidnap kids all day. I don't mind.
Well, see, that's the thing. They like keep the kid in a separate room, like tied up, and like they're not even talking with her. Um, and that's like one of the rules. Like we have one person who goes in there and like brings her water and whatever, but like we're not gonna talk with her. We're not gonna, there's no interaction, and it's for everyone's safety. And the movie's a lot smarter than what the trailer leads you to believe.
I see you kids. That's what I have to say. This is one that I suggested while we were talking about this topic. I would like to talk about some of your favorite shots in horror movies. I have a few specific
man.
ones. Mine are pretty much the norm for people what might say, but I wanted to start with some interesting shots that you've maybe stolen, maybe liked, anything like that from some horror movies of your past.
There is a shot that's even in the trailer, the first teaser trailer for Lords of Salem.
Mm-hmm.
That is this Dolly Inn. There is a weird, messed up little, almost like baby creature standing at the top of these stairs in this opulent hotel, and just blown out light just filling the frame behind it. And it is gorgeous. It is one of my favorite shots of all time. And then you pair it with, I believe it's Beethoven. And it's just like, I wish Rob Zombie would make more of those movies. Although I think that might be his least
Less of
successful
the
movie he
monsters.
ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, fewer monsters and more Lords of Salem, because man, Lords of Salem is my jam.
I don't even remember what movie this was from, but it may have been a Del Toro. I'm not 100% sure. But there was a shot. So you've got the hallway on the left-hand side of the screen. You got the girl's room on the right-hand side of the screen. And girl's in the room playing. All seems normal over there. She's in the light. And then you see in the hallway, there's a figure there. Just kind of lurking, just right around the corner. But the way that they did that shot was just the epitome of creepiness and terrifying. Just know that something was lurking right around the corner. You have no
Is
idea.
that from Conjuring 2?
Bro, I couldn't even be sure. Let's go with that. I believe you.
I don't know, maybe.
I believe you. Can you explain to the people? This is one of my favorite shots of all time in movie history, much less in a horror movie. But break down the Carrie shot, the blood shot, and talk to people about how that was shot, how difficult that process was, and how that kind of all came together.
Oh, which one? Like,
when she's on the stage and they drop the blood on her hip.
well, I mean, so I was rewatching that fairly recently, and first of all, like the whole last, like that whole section of the movie should really only be like half a minute long, but it plays out for like 7 minutes because it's all in like super slow-mo. And what I love about it is you know exactly what's going to happen. The fact that they hang on it for so long, you're just
Yep.
you're waiting. You're waiting. It's like, when's it going to happen? And when it does, and everything goes red, it's a great way to show you that like she broke. She broke, and I don't know if you've been so mad that you've seen red, but it's happened to me once, and it's a great way of putting you in her shoes, but also knowing, hey, everyone in this room is going to die.
Yeah.
Even if they had nothing to do with it. Wrong place, wrong time. And it doesn't matter if you're laughing because she thinks you are. But as far as like how difficult it was, like I haven't heard being like particularly difficult. But I think the lighting in that scene sells it. It's also one of the only times split screen actually works. And I think the reason it works there is because you don't want it to be too long at that point, but also you want to keep seeing her,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're cutting away from her face, which is so extreme, you're losing something. So that is, hey, we're going to use this trick, which never works, but it'll work here just because you want to see what Sissy Spacek is seeing and why, why she's going after them.
It works because it's De Palma, and De Palma makes it work because he's the one guy that can seem to make weird things like that work. And sometimes it fails. Boy, sometimes it fails, but I love it when it's on.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that there's anything.
Yeah, the De Palma documentary talks about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what did it say?
I don't know. I've done a lot of drugs since then, but like the whenever they're doing it over the top, there was some kind of issues with that because there was about just like something dumb, like you have to balance that blood and everything, and it was just kind of so De Palma to me is probably going to be just my favorite horror director, even though that's not all that he does. But when he does horror, he's definitely one of my favorites. Who are some of your favorite people in the horror genre?
Man, well, John Carpenter. I mean,
That seems reasonable to say.
Yeah, the master of horror, like that's his Twitter handle. Definitely Guillermo del Toro. Although, like his stuff tends to be a little, I think, almost more fantasy.
Yeah.
Ty West for sure. Ty West.
I do love what he's doing nowadays.
Yeah.
Don't always like the movies, but I love what he is doing. The second of the three I didn't like. 1 and 3 I did like though.
But
of the trilogy of his trilogy.
So you didn't like Pearl?
Yeah, that's the one I did not like. Yeah. The other two I liked. I mean, it was fine.
Oh, because it had something to do with musicals. Jesus, you're weird.
Thank you. At least I'm consistent. That's what I got to say. Psychological horror for me is my favorite subgenre. We haven't even talked about sci-fi horror, which is another subgenre. That
actually, sci-fi horror is the only way sci-fi makes money in the theater.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Is there anything that competes with Alien, or is everybody competing for second place in that category?
Everyone's competing for second place, but the funny thing is, Alien is really just a gothic haunted house movie.
Yeah,
it's literally all it is. But they put it in space, and it's kind of like no one thought to do Space Marines before Aliens, and then every single movie that takes place in space has Space Marines now. Like every single one. It's crazy.
That's the way it goes sometimes. It is quite ridiculous. What's some of the worst? Let me rephrase that.
Oh, man.
Horror sometimes get a bad name from people who don't understand how genres and films work, right? So what are some of the subgenres of horror that make it that way, that people see, look at that. That's why horror is never going to get the respect it gets.
I don't think there are any genres responsible. It's just the fact that because it's such, and it has been an entryway for filmmakers. I mean, that's how filmmakers from overseas came into our system in the 30s and 40s. They made horror films, right? Because they could prove they could make something cheap and on time, and then they were taken out of horror, right? So I don't think it's any genre, because you can find great stuff in pretty much any genre. It's the fact that you have so much in every genre, and so much of it is just terrible. Like so much stuff is terrible that you can't, it's hard to take it seriously because it is low budget as well. It's not like there are a whole lot of low budget superhero movies, but there's so many low budget horror movies that it's kind of hard to sift the good from the bad. And that's why that's why the Academy doesn't take it seriously, because if they took it seriously, Toni Collette would have won every award for Hereditary. Hereditary might be the best female performance I've ever seen in my life. It's remarkable. And I could have sworn they would at least give her a nomination, and they didn't, which it just blows my mind. And also, horror is also real quick. It's also one of the places people who don't fit into typical leading roles that are popular, especially if you're, over 35. That's one place where you can still find a lot of work.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about some of these actors that have really found a second life in the horror genre, especially over the last decade or two, that really kind of found their space and can do these things. Are there some actors that you have that are favorites? Because I have one guy in mind that I don't remember his name, and I'm going to look it up right now.
Oh, well, I mean, Toni Collette, she's done horror forever, and she keeps coming back to it.
Yep.
Which I love. But Halle Berry.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Just watched Gothica just the other day, even though you didn't approve.
but she does a lot of horror now. I don't know. You find everyone kind of coming back to it, especially now that you have A24 and they're trying, to make elevated horror to where people are trying to make elevated horror films to where it's like, hey, we are, take us seriously, please. And it's no longer considered, well, I'm doing a horror movie. It's like, no, I'm doing this really great elevated horror piece.
Tell me all the great things that Patrick Wilson has done, because that guy is my jam.
He's in everything. He's in everything.
Oh, I'm so happy for that guy. I'm so happy that he found his niche. He is just a fantastic actor. Hereditary, or which one was he in? I've already forgotten, but he has done
a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he's made his money. I hope so, as a person. I hope he's made so much money with those. Can I talk to you about what I would suggest is the greatest horror movie of all time? First of all, what would you guess that I would suggest is the greatest horror movie of all time?
Man, I don't even know. Because I know you haven't seen a ton of horror.
I'm getting up there. I'm working it.
You might go with The Shining.
Ooh, okay. Yep, that's a good one, but that's probably not even my fourth favorite Kubrick film. The first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man, did I go, holy bejeebus, this. Oh, now I get it, because I didn't watch it until I was like in my mid-30s. I wouldn't say that it terrified me. It would have definitely terrified me as a kid. But that thing was a beautiful movie. That thing is shot so well along with the terrifying nature of those characters. There's
a reality to it that movies wish they had now. I think a lot of it's also just the Super 16.
Yes, you probably got me there too.
A lot of it's the Super 16. I am a huge fan of Super 16. There is this unreality, but super reality at the same time to it that I just love. It feels like you're capturing time. But man, I don't know. There's something different about that one, because if you just break it down, it's like, well, there's a scene that's 6 minutes long where people at a dinner table just laugh at this person.
Right.
But yeah, there's something just very brutal, but not excessive. It's not like Last House on the Left, which, goes into gore and, rape and stuff. Like, no, this is just Leatherface slams this metal door and it's just chilling. Because there's a separation and there's there's enough slickness. It's polished grit is what my DP and I like to call it, where it's very polished, but it's incredibly grimy and gritty. It's kind of like the first Ninja Turtles movie, right? Super gritty, but it is slick. That polished grit, I wish more movies would go for, because it works so well. It's minimal light, so it feels real and not overly staged, but you're really painting with your compositions and your movement, right? Because everyone remembers the dolly towards the house.
Yep. I agree. Can we finish up this segment by creating our own Matt Men Movies Mount Rushmore of horror movie characters? This could be easy.
Characters
could be very hard. I would submit to you that Leatherface most definitely needs to be on our 4. What do you say to that?
Well, okay. So are we going for characters or looks?
Characters.
Because because Leatherface
Oh,
isn't really
oh,
a character.
Okay. Then I'm going to go with looks just because I want to make sure Leatherface is on there. Let's go looks. How about that?
Okay. Well, then this is pretty simple.
Yes, it should be.
You've got Leatherface,
Yep.
Jason,
Yep. Freddy.
Freddy,
Yep.
and then
Ooh.
who's the last one? Probably I'm actually gonna say maybe the
Pinhead?
clown from Terrifier or Pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
Terrifier, because that one's genuinely creepy. Pinhead I never found to be creepy. Pinhead scares the hell out of my wife. Like, she can't watch anything with Pinhead.
I'm a big fan of the Pinhead guy. How about the It guy?
I mean, which one?
Tim Curry.
See, I don't find either of those scary.
Oh.
I'm not a big clowns or scary kind of person.
So you enjoyed the clown strip club in LA?
I've never been.
Neither have I, and nobody should go. You bunch of weirdos! Stop going to.
Now, if we're talking about characters, real quick, we're talking about characters.
Yes,
You got to put Jack Torrance on there.
of course.
Got to
Yeah.
put Jack Torrance. I would say you put Father Marin,
I don't know that.
because he's the younger priest in Exorcist, and he's the bad guy in Exorcist 3.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So you got Father Marin.
Mhm.
Man, in terms of interesting characters,
Yeah.
I would say because of Doctor Sleep, I'd put Danny Torrance on there.
Oh, yeah. Nah, yeah. I would. Yeah.
I love Danny Torrance, and man, I don't know. You pick one for the fourth. Who's an interesting horror character?
I'm gonna go with Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko, and you cannot convince me otherwise because
That's sci-fi. It's not horror.
Uh,
Okay. What about shoot, I forgot it. I forgot his name.
well, then we're gonna go with Frank the Bunny. Thank you very much.
No, Frank the Bunny's not a character.
He is. He has a.
And it's sci-fi.
Well,
It's not horror.
yes.
We could go with Patrick Wilson from all those Conjuring movies.
Soul.
Like him, yeah. Give Patrick Wilson something.
All right, everybody. We have made it through another perfect episode of Batman Movies Podcast. I forgot to talk more about Harvey Weinstein. Do you want to reserve the end for just Harvey?
No.
Okay, fair enough. What we do instead at the end of our show is always give the people a little bit of recommendations, things to watch in the week ahead that we have enjoyed recently. So I give the mic over to you, my friend. What do you recommend the people see this week?
Oh, man, I've been watching so much horror that it's kind of broken my brain a bit. So let me go to my Mataween and find one that I really liked.
Yes.
Besides Abigail, because I've already talked about Abigail. I don't know. I had a lot of B's and C's this year. Let's go with The Substance. Did I talk about that already?
I do not believe so, no.
Yeah, let's go with The Substance. That movie is one of my favorites of the year.
Excellent. I love that. I did not talk about Megalopolis today, so I'm just going to say watch it. Either way, it doesn't matter if you feel good or bad about it. Watch it. It's fun. But I want to talk about sometimes I fail. You know what? Sometimes I fail in my marriage. Sometimes I do not live up to the standards that I should for my wife, my sweet wife, Deanne. I had never shown her The Night of the Hunter. What's wrong with me?
Whoa!
Failed so bad, but that also means that this week we got to watch it. I got to watch it again. Good lordy gracious. Mitchum is God. That movie is terrifying and wonderful.
Lawton just coming in and like dropping one of the greatest movies of all time. Then like, I'm good.
Yeah, that's all I need, baby. That's all.
Actually, I think it was because it didn't do well.
Which is crazy to me. But I mean, and that was a pretty horrifying movie. I don't know if I would have. Yeah. So The Night of the Hunter, fantastic movie. Also Urban Legends. I don't care what you say. That was fun. Jared Leto for life. Guys, we are here. We are done. We are through. We are out. We've told you everything we need to do. But before we do, I ask you one last time, Matt, what do you tell the people before we go?
See ya.
Thank you.